What's up, Vikings Nation? Buckle up, because today's Minnesota Vikings news hits hard right from the jump. Imagine turning on the TV, seeing the Super Bowl matchup set, and hearing Sam Darnold's name all over the national conversation. Whether you love it, hate it, or feel sick to your stomach, that storyline alone forces us to look back and ask one uncomfortable question. How did the Vikings handle the quarterback position? Really? Now let's be clear and keep this grounded in reality. This isn't about claiming Sam Darnold literally dragged Seattle to a Lombardi on his own. This is about perception, timing, and how narratives form when former Vikings quarterbacks find success elsewhere while Minnesota is still searching for stability. And perception in the NFL? That stuff can burn hotter than facts. So today we're breaking it all down, piece by piece, like only real Vikings fans can. The front office decisions, the J.J. McCarthy gamble, the missed opportunities, the numbers nobody wants to talk about, and the big picture question hovering over Egan right now. Did the Minnesota Vikings mismanage the most important position in sports? Let's rewind to last offseason, because this is where the frustration really begins. The Vikings went into the spring with uncertainty at quarterback, but also with options on the table. Sam Darnold and Mac Jones both signed deals in mid-March 2025, right as the legal tampering window cracked open and chaos erupted across the league. The problem isn't that Minnesota didn't keep Darnold or didn't land Jones. The problem is timing. If the Vikings truly believed J.J. McCarthy was ready to roll, then fine, plant your flag. But if there was even a shred of doubt, you can't wait until the music stops and all the chairs are gone. This is what drives fans crazy. Other quarterbacks, like Jameis Winston, were still available weeks later. That suggests the Vikings weren't proactive, they were reactive. And at quarterback, reacting instead of anticipating is how seasons go sideways fast. Now let's talk about J.J. McCarthy, because everything eventually circles back to him. The hope, the hype, and the anxiety all live in the same space. The biggest issue so far hasn't even been performance. It's availability. You can't evaluate, develop, or build confidence around a quarterback who isn't consistently on the field. Minnesota needed clarity, and instead they got fragments. A game here, a stretch there, then another setback. That's brutal for a young quarterback and brutal for a coaching staff trying to shape an offense. And it's brutal for a fan base desperate for answers. What made things even louder were the press conferences. If you listen closely, the tone changed. Not once did leadership come out and firmly declare J.J. McCarthy as the unquestioned starter for 2026. In the NFL, what isn't said can be just as telling as what is. Let's dive into the numbers, because vibes and hope only take you so far. In the 2025 NFL season with the Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy played 10 games. He threw for 1,632 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. His passer rating sat at 72.6, with a completion percentage of 57.6%. Those aren't numbers that inspire confidence on their own. Ranked 33rd in passing yards, 29th in passing touchdowns, and 38th in interceptions, McCarthy struggled to find consistency. His total QBR of 35.7 ranked 35th out of 43 quarterbacks, painting a tough picture of overall efficiency. But context matters. And this is where the story gets complicated, not simple. Because the advanced metrics tell a deeper, messier truth about what was actually happening on the field. One stat jumps off the page immediately: intended air yards. McCarthy's average depth of target was 9.6 yards, the highest in the entire NFL. That tells us the Vikings weren't hiding him. They were asking him to push the ball downfield, to be aggressive, to stretch defenses vertically. That's exciting, but it's also dangerous for a young quarterback, especially one still adjusting to NFL speed, pressure, and timing. His on-target percentage was just 59.9%, dead last among qualifying quarterbacks. Deep shots plus low accuracy is a recipe for stalled drives and turnovers. Speaking of turnovers, PFF credited McCarthy with 15 turnover-worthy plays, even though only 12 became interceptions. That gap suggests he was flirting with disaster even more than the box score shows. It wasn't just bad luck. It was risky decision-making under fire. Pressure is another massive part of this story. McCarthy was pressured on nearly 40% of his dropbacks, which is a staggering number. No quarterback, especially a young one, thrives under that kind of heat. Yet his pressure-to-sack rate was 23.5%, showing at least some ability to escape and fight. So what are we really looking at here? A quarterback asked to play aggressively, behind inconsistent protection, with accuracy issues that may be mechanical, mental, or situational. That's not a bust verdict. That's an unfinished evaluation. This brings us to the big historical question Vikings fans keep asking. How many highly drafted quarterbacks have started this poorly and still turned out okay? The answer isn't comforting, but it isn't hopeless either. The failure rate is real, but so are the comebacks. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions as a rookie and looked overwhelmed before becoming a legend. Josh Allen was wildly inaccurate early in his career before transforming into an MVP-caliber monster. Jared Goff was statistically worse than McCarthy early on and still led teams deep into the playoffs. Then there are stories like Steve Young, Drew Brees, and Geno Smith. Careers that looked shaky or even doomed before something clicked. The scary part? For every success story, there are multiple quarterbacks who never figured it out. History tells us this: improvement is possible, but it's not automatic. Development depends on environment, patience, coaching, and organizational belief. And that last part might be the most important of all. So how do NFL teams usually handle situations like this? The smart ones build. They protect their quarterback with better offensive line play. They invest in weapons. They simplify schemes and reduce mental load early. They also lean on veteran mentorship. Sitting behind a steady pro can do wonders, as we saw with Jordan Love in Green Bay. Rushing development rarely works. Confidence is fragile at this level, and once it cracks, it's hard to repair. When things don't improve, organizations face hard choices. Sometimes they change coordinators. Sometimes they change head coaches. Sometimes they cut bait entirely and hope the quarterback finds new life elsewhere, like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold himself. And that's where the Vikings narrative gets dangerous. When former quarterbacks find success outside Minnesota, the spotlight turns inward. Was the evaluation wrong? Was the patience lacking? Or was the environment part of the problem? Recent Minnesota Vikings news only fuels that fire. Reports indicated the Vikings did make a competitive offer to Sam Darnold, but it was limited in length. The commitment just wasn't there. Darnold chose a situation where he felt clearer belief and opportunity. National voices didn't hold back. When analysts point out that Darnold is the first quarterback from his draft class to reach a Super Bowl, it creates an uncomfortable comparison. Fair or not, those takes shape public perception. And perception eventually reaches ownership. That's where pressure really starts to build. Front offices don't get unlimited time. If results don't follow, changes happen. Looking ahead, mock drafts and trade scenarios are already flying around. Trading back, accumulating picks, building the trenches, and adding depth everywhere. Defensive tackles, offensive linemen, secondary help, versatile athletes. All signs of a team trying to support a quarterback, whoever that ends up being. But here's the truth, Vikings fans. None of it matters unless the quarterback situation stabilizes. Everything in the NFL flows from that position. Hope, fear, patience, and panic all live there. So now I want to hear from you. Do you believe J.J. McCarthy can take a real leap if he stays healthy? Did the Minnesota Vikings mishandle the quarterback position last offseason? And what should the plan be moving forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments, argue it out respectfully, and let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Minnesota Vikings news, smash that like button, subscribe for daily Vikings coverage, and share this with every fan who bleeds purple. Skol forever.